And that's how, for example, Elon Musk, if we take this example, which has no education, technically, he didn't finish school, he's doing things that people are like, how is it possible? No, he's just saying things that doesn't make sense. When Kennedy said, we're going to go on the moon, everybody was freaking out. They're like, we have no idea to do it. But we're going there, we'll find a way. That's how innovation, how creativity works. You just do something that doesn't make sense. That's quantum physics show. That's exactly how you're going to succeed even more, because you're going to go outside of what's predictable and you're going to innovate. If you want to do transformation, you do the exact same thing with your life. When people, they're like, okay, what's your goal in business? I'm like, make crazy things. And they're like, it's impossible. Yeah, that's the thing. If we want to change the world, it has to be impossible.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spiritual Forum. I'm so glad you're here. I'm really excited to have Philippe Brouillard back, and he is going to talk to us about one of my favorite topics, and that is the intersection of quantum physics and spirituality. But first, just let me remind you all the ways that you can support this podcast, which is a voice of hope, inspiration, and awakening. And doesn't the world need hope, inspiration, and awakening? And don't we each? We are in a process of awakening. For those who, most of the people who are listening to this podcast are probably in a process of awakening. And all my guests are here to inspire us on that journey. So please subscribe and rate and review and participate in my ministry, thespiritualforum.org. And you can donate. There's all sorts of ways that you can contribute, but mostly just be on the path with me and be committed to it. That's really most of what my message is for you all today. So welcome back, Philippe. I'm so glad to have you again.
Yes.
We had a great hour talking about happiness and how it is measurable, and talking about what real transformation is, and also your quantum source formula and your really interesting PhD dissertation, I guess. Is that what it's
My
called?
thesis, yeah.
Your thesis, yeah. And just to briefly introduce, for anybody who didn't hear part one, Philippe is the founder of VitaQuantum. He's a best-selling author of a newly released book called Rethinking Happiness. It is in French and in English. He's a PhD candidate in the quantum science of health, prosperity, and happiness. And his unique method, quantum source formula, blends quantum physics, neuroscience, and emotional transformation to help people shift from fragmentation to clarity, both energetically and behaviorally. And that really is the shift that is happening, I think, on the planet now. So we're going to talk now, Philippe, about quantum physics and spirituality and how they intersect and why it matters. So why don't we just jump right in? Anybody who hasn't heard part one, they can go back and hear your bio, and we can go back and learn more about you through the rapid fire questions, but we're just going to dive in right now. So why is this important to us, and what can you tell us about the intersection of quantum physics and spirituality?
So if I bring just a little bit back, so spiritual tradition says the goal of life is happiness. And when we look, that was a lot of thing that we spoke in the first section. But then if we understand that, so the goal of life is happiness or enlightenment or raising consciousness, and we're like, okay, how can we do so? We can follow what they were all saying, or we can try to understand what they were saying. And the more we understand it, the more we can let go to our transformation. So the first thing I would say, so what's the goal of life? So if this is the goal of life, okay, how can we live our life in a certain way? But then you said, for example, in my bio, you were saying by fragmentation.
Mm-hmm.
So Newtonian physics, which is how our life is designed, how things works and so on. If we say a computer works on quantum, but we would say it's matter anyway. So most everything is possible now because of the quantum world, but we say it does not apply to human experience, but it works on stuff. It's kind of weird, but So if we go back to Newton physics, where everything is matter, so it's only matter interacting with matter. So Newton shows us the laws of motions, for example, to something to move, it has to be a certain impact of another object. So everything is cause and effect. But spirituality, we're not saying this. Spirituality was saying, for example, everything is one. But if we go back to Newton physics, everything is separate. And if we look at the studies, so it's funny because when you look at study, every time human being experience separation, we suffer
Mhm.
and we get unhappy. Every time we experience connection with something I would call nature, human being are nature, are part of nature, but what human creates is human creation. So every time we experience nature, longevity and happiness improve. And you're like, So maybe they were saying something that makes sense. So you can just study nature. You not need to be in nature, but you just the fact of studying nature improve your happiness and longevity. You're like, wow, that's very interesting. So you're studying what? Life and reality. So the study that was made from Harvard that lasts 85 years. So that's one of the longest study ever. And they measure everything to try to figure out what was the biggest longevity factors. And the result was your relationships. Your food was not one, your exercise was not one. Yeah, they were important, but the most important factor was your relationship. Or what's a relationship? Being in connection, being one with others. So the sports that has the highest level of longevity and happiness, again, racket sports. Why? Because people play together. It's a team sports, but it's they play in clubs, so there's this social aspect to it. So it's not like when you go ski, yes, you're talking the chairlift, but then it's very individual sports. So you go play hockey or football, those kind of things. You play, but when you're in the field, you don't talk much. So it's a different reality. So it's very interesting to understand. So every time we experience oneness, in some ways, we have those things improve. So maybe they have something that we didn't understand. Now we have quantum physics that comes in and like says everything is one too. We have the concept of non-locality that was kind of named by, but not named, but was started in 1935 with Einstein, Podolsky, Rosen, which is their paradox. They took two molecules. We go back to, for example, photons, like I was mentioning. Photons is a particle of light. They took those two together, they connect them close together, and then they separate each other. And what I do to one, the other one react automatically, whatever the distance is. So now we're like, how is this possible? If they're disconnected, it's impossible. There's nothing can go faster than the speed of light. So now it's become instantly. So it's the quantum leap in quantum physics. It's jumped from one space to the other space without passing by space, without having time. So then you're like, And the interesting things now we call this entanglement. So the two photons or electrons are entangled. And lately they took a picture of this, of those two particles connected. And when you look at the picture, it's the yin and the yang. We're like, how fascinating is that? How those, you can say Chinese, that become from that part of Buddhism, from they knew that the entanglement thing is the yin and the yang. So it's when the feminine and the masculine are intertwined, when they're connected. So you're like, how do these spiritual people know all of those things that now we're starting to prove with quantum physics thousands of years before? So they had a wisdom that we didn't have, and now we need to learn with our left brain and figure those things out, where they had from intuition or something that we don't know how, but they knew a lot of things. So it's fascinating to see these things.
Yeah, I think there's a direct knowledge or direct wisdom or something. And that I've always kind of said that science and spirituality, that science is seems just like a little bit behind because it's that left brain, which is a little
Yeah, yeah,
clunky, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but it's funny because when you look at where creativity comes from. So, for example, if we take Einstein to stay in science, Einstein it was not as his board trying to figure out the equation of relativity, the E equal mc square. It just came to him.
Yeah.
So when it comes to you, it's right brain. And then people were asking, how do you know? I know it. It was only proven years after by the left brain. So the information is always there because everything is energy, everything is there. So we don't create something new. So we know that energy cannot be created, it just transforms. So this is something we know in science. So the energy is already there, the information is already there, there's no difference. So how those two electrons that are connected, they're transferring information some way, somehow, which is instant. So it's information, energy is information at the same time. So for example, we have all Wi-Fi somewhere, or like things that pass in cables and stuff. What's passing is like light that carries energy. So it's energy, light that carries information. So now we use fiber optic because it's faster. So it's almost the speed of light, but it's still very slow versus instantly. So, so we're like, oh, okay, now it only works with little things like photons or electrons. Does it works with human being? So they did a study in 1982 in Mexico. What they took two groups of people. The first group, we meditate themselves for 20 minutes, so they kind of connect to each other for 20 minutes. The other group just sit in the waiting room to do the experiment, so they don't have connection. There's nothing happening there. They're just sitting by themselves. And then we send each group, for example, person A and person B of each group in different Faraday chamber. So a Faraday chamber is a place where there's no signal, there's no wave, heat, and those kind of things. Everything is protected. So if you want to make sure that your phone does not connect to anything, you can put them in Faraday chamber like pockets and
Mhm.
stuff like this. They're fully disconnected from everything. So they put people in A and B in their own chamber, and what they do, they would send light flashes and sound flashes to the person A of each group and see how the brain reacts. So we know if we do those kind of things, the brain's going to flash all over the place if we're reading with a brain mapping system. So what's fascinating is the people that connected for 20 minutes, when person A received those things, the brain of person B reacted the exact same way, the exact same time.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, that's wow. You're like, oh, huh. So it's just not happening in the little electrons and photons. So everything is energy. So our body is at 99.99999% energy, even if it's feel very hard, but it's just energy. Like the table is just energy too. And but we believe that those things is a reality, and that goes with what Hinduists are saying. We live in a reality which is an illusion. So we think life is a certain way, but life is not really what it is. So the other group, the person of the B, his brain didn't change. Nothing happened. So they didn't have the chance to connect. So in quantum physics, we say that everything is possibility. We call quantum physics also like the physics of possibility. So it's only probability. So it's only mathematic probability percentage and so on. So we all have the possibility to be one. But when we're fully in the moment of being this, I need to do this and think of that, da, 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 we're just feeling disconnected. So when you meditate, what meditation does, it calms you down. And now you can experience what's happening because you're like stopping thinking of everything you're going to do next week or today or next week or the past or the present. So there's this book, The Power of Now. I'm sure most
Mhm.
everybody knows this book now, but Power of Now can be tricky. I was thinking to rename the book and write a book about it. I was saying, oh, that might be interesting because the power of now is a true thing, but at the same time, it's false because there's a lot of people that just live in the moment present because they're just disconnected from everything, but they're not aware. So the power of now, we need to be aware of I'm now. So so if you just disconnect, I don't want to think about the past, I don't want to think about the future. I'm just living now in the pleasure, which was the big subject of the last thing. I'm just living in the moment, just enjoying life and da da da. There's no evolution.
Mhm.
So you want to be in the now, but in the now for growth. So you're not impacted by your past, but you're creating a future of transformation. This would change a lot of things. So you're the observer creating your reality. So the more you're in the present moment, the more one you can be, And the more you're aligned with oneness, for example, the more synchronicity, opportunities, and effortless impact appear in your life, because everything is already there, but you just need to align with it. And when your brain thinks of everything, who you are and who you're not, and your traumas, and you're not living a great life. You're living a life by default. So if you really want to create your life, you need to, okay, what's life is about? So we know that we're all energy. So every stuff that you're getting as matter, matter is still energy, but it's a such low vibration that it's feel very hard. So if we take water, for example, so water at a very low vibration is ice. And then it become, if we raise the vibration, it becomes water liquid. And then if we raise it even more, it's become vapor, and then we don't see it anymore. It's all the same thing, just different vibration. So that's the exact same thing. So is matter reality? No, it's 0.00001% of what we live in, but we think life is about getting more stuff because it's going to make us happier. So quantum physics tells us that, spirituality tells us that, but we think we know better. So we get in this rat race of finding something that we can never find.
So the rat race is
Yeah.
Newtonian.
Yeah.
It is Newtonian. So this is a really interesting way of looking at our reality and all of our systems. I think all of our systems, like our government systems, is
Yeah. Yeah.
Newtonian.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so if quantum physics tells us that everything is possibilities,
Yeah.
then that completely cuts through what we were talking about in the last hour about I'm a victim, these things are happening to me, I have no power. That just cuts through all of that.
Yeah.
And it gives us complete power, which I think, you correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it would completely like the need for all the institutions that we have would not be needed anymore. Is that
We can say this, yes.
I mean, like
So
we
if
wouldn't have all this dependence. Like right now, we
yeah.
feel we depend on so much. Now we have an interconnectedness,
Mhm.
but this dependence, like I can't do it, somebody else needs to help me do it. That would disappear if we lived in this quantum field where everything is
Yeah.
possibilities.
Yeah. Exactly. And if you live from that space, then everything is possible. Then you cannot be controlled. You're free. You're fully free at that moment.
Right, right. That's what
So,
freedom is then.
yeah, that's freedom. Is you become sovereign of your reality and you choose whatever you want, because you're not at the effect of other things, because you can create everything. So, but then you're like, oh yeah, but I cannot do this because of that, of this, of that. So one thing I say to people in business or to my student and so on, I'm like, okay, if you want to create a goal, how do you do goal management? Usually we do it a smart way. And smart is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and in time. But this is fully Newtonian way. It demands space, it demands
Exactly.
time. And we say the other one is time. So it has to be what? It's in the known, it's comfortable in reality. But quantum physics shows that everything is uncertain, is the uncertainty principle. There's nothing can be predictable at the quantum level. So even if we throw in a rocket somewhere and we want to put it on Mars, we predict it, but it's still uncertain. So the probability is super high, but there's always uncertainty that you cannot measure. So it says like you cannot know the exact position and the velocity, so the position and the speed in some ways of an electron, because it's the moment you start to look at it, it's always gone.
Hmm.
So in our reality, we think, for example, the table doesn't move, but table is always moving. It would take like for our own eyes like 7 million years to see it, or a laser would know it instantly. It's just different vibration, different frequencies. So when you set goals, in my perspective, we need to be in the uncertain reality. So do a goal that doesn't make sense. And then you need to let go in some ways. Yeah, you would do stuff and then you want to be, and then you do stuff, but you cannot predict how it's going to be because it doesn't make sense. And if you're in that space, now you leave the space of possibility and, like, in some ways, magic happening because you don't know How? And that's how, for example, Elon Musk, if we take this example, which has no education technically, he didn't finish school, he's doing things that people are like, how is it possible? You're just saying things that doesn't make sense. When Kennedy said we're going to go on the moon, everybody was freaking out. They're like, we have no idea to do it. But we're going there. We'll find a way. That's how innovation, how creativity works. You just do something that doesn't make sense. That's quantum physics show. That's exactly how you're going to succeed even more, because you're going to go outside of what's predictable and you're going to innovate. If you want to do transformation, you do the exact same thing with your life. When people, they're like, okay, what's your goal in business? I'm like, make crazy things. And they're like, it's impossible. Yeah, that's the thing. If we want to change the world, it has to be impossible.
Yeah.
But it's still possible. The possibility is still there. The probability is there, even if it's small. For example, if we go back, healing from a cancer, based on Newtonian physics, where everything is matter, then it's impossible. But there's so much studies that show it's possible. So the probability is small. And the only reason the probability is small, because we don't believe in it. So if we look, if we bring, for example, we stay on the cancer question in there. Or,
No,
okay.
I'm just fascinated about how um, how rooted we are in Newtonian physics.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, as you're talking, I'm thinking about all these things coming into my mind about, oh my gosh, we're so mired
Mm-hmm.
in that.
Yeah.
And probably purposeful, because
Mm-hmm.
it keeps us from really being free.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're living in the Newtonian world, we are in the prison. Would you say that that's
Yeah.
equivalent to the
Yeah.
prison?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It is. It is. Okay. All right. And there's other things I want to talk about, because some other ideas came to me about things like dis-ease, like where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
But I know there is, I can't remember his name, but there's a guy who studied like back pain and found that some people who really, really suffer from this horrible back pain, they might find something on the MRI that showed there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they would say that's the cause. But then there are other people that have the same MRI that don't have back pain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the exact same
Yeah.
condition,
Yeah.
one suffers all of the time, the other doesn't. So there's something way beyond the
Mm-hmm.
physical or
Yeah.
the measurable that is really our reality.
Yeah. Exactly. So if I just continue on the cancer,
Yeah.
so there's a study that shows what's just called the phantom limbs. For example, if you get an arm that's been amputated, 80 to 100% people feeling pain still, even the arm is not there. You're like, if we were just matter, if we remove matter, then pain is gone. But 80 to 100% of people feel pain, and there's no way for them in the Newtonian world to remove the pain. So that's kind
Yes.
of, you're like, if we're just a physical body, then it would work, but then we know that we're not just a physical body. So when they do transplant, especially with the heart, if you do a heart transplant, so they're transplanting a physical heart, and we know we're not just physical. Some people remember things from the person before. So the person that had the heart, they're transforming the heart and they have the memory from the transplant. How is it possible? The person changes personality after a transplant. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Now here's where it gets interesting. So you have a cancer. We remove the cancer. We're removing what? The physical thing. So is there energy relating to the cancer? We're not removing the energy. It's like removing the harm. So is the pain is going to come back again? So why there's so many people that are cancer came back, cancer came back? We're not fixing the energy perspective. Consciousness create matter. Matter doesn't create consciousness. And quantum physics shows that. So if consciousness create matter, everything that happened in your life, which is your physical body, your external environment, is creating by your own consciousness. So you're like, so if I remove something, there's a reason it's there. So If I don't fix the reason it's there, then it's going to come back. And that's
Well, it's
why
like the relationship that, I divorced that guy and I married another guy. He's the same guy.
yeah, exactly. And we know all of this, but then we say it works with this, it works with this,
Right,
but it
right.
doesn't work with cancer. For like, so we separate things so much, but everything is the same thing. It's just a representation of who you are. Quantum physics, the observer effect that we spoke before. You create the reality. It's when you observe something, it creates what it is. So it works not just half the time or by chance sometimes, and those time law doesn't work half the time. Laws are laws.
Uh-huh.
So in the Kabbalah, in the Jewish tradition, from the spirituality side of it, there were the same laws were there. Why people from Latin America or America completely, like Asia or like Middle East, or they all saying the same thing but different words? It's kind of weird. How did they got the message from where? And now we think we know better with like 200 years of Newtonian physics, and we're like, oh, this is how life is.
We're so much smarter than they were.
But we're smarter technically, and we're more knowledge than ever, and but we're sicker and unhappier than ever, and which is the paradox of progress. I come back always to those things. So we're something that we don't understand what life is about, and that's what Buddhism are saying. The main suffering in life is not understanding life by itself, the reality how it works. So when we go more in spirituality and quantum physics, it helps understand all of this because we're challenging. Like, and if you think you understand everything we're talking today, you didn't understand anything, because there's a saying in quantum physics: if you think you understand something, you didn't understand it, because it's so abstract.
It is hard to understand because
Yeah,
we have Newtonian minds. I mean, I've been
exactly.
trained in the Newtonian mind,
Yeah,
and you're talking about when you talk about those the people who like played racket sports
yeah,
together, and that they had some time to communicate, and then their brains kind of lit up in the same way. It makes me wonder about something like the theory of contagion. Is it really something coming from my breath, an object going into your nostril, going into your cells, or is it an energetic thing where you and I are in the same space together? I'm having some kind of symptoms, and somehow your body's picking up instantly that field
mhm,
and responding. I mean, you have a background in functional medicine. To me, that makes more sense than anything.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that to me, the medical field is extremely Newtonian,
mhm,
and
mhm, yeah,
and we rely on that because we believe in it.
mhm.
So, am I far off on that?
No, you're not. And there's a study that shows, for example, distant healing. How does this work? If it's like quantum physics explain those concepts, but then if there's distant healing, so I don't know where you are in the States, I'm in Mexico, I can do something and your brain reacts, or I can heal you. It's like, and this doesn't take time, and there's no space.
Yeah.
So we go back to this non-locality entanglement concept. Like, those things are possible. If we're just matter, physical things, it has no impact. But if we're all energy, then all of it makes sense again. So that's why, like Newtonian physics or traditional medical system, which is based on Newtonian physics, where everything is matter, we take a pill to get things, and that's why they're like homeopathy is not a thing, because it's just a big like a pill of sugar in reality, but it's the energy imprint that has it. One of my friend that did her PhD and she finalized was using homeopathy as a treatment, and she did all the research on it, and it's proven, and she's linking to the quantum physics perspective and how it works and so on. But they're like, no, it doesn't work, because at the moment everything is energy, then energy is free. Energy doesn't cost anything. There's no money to do on this. Even there's a Ling Metagar that she wrote The Power of Eight, and so hate people together, healing someone, for example, people getting heals all the time. And most of the people that heals are the healy and not the are the healers and not the healy.
In
So
that
it's
case, though, doesn't my understanding of the power of eight
yeah,
is that I can't get a group of people to pray for that person over there. That person has to be receptive.
Yeah.
right? The person has to be
Well,
receptive and part of the group. Is that right?
yes and no. It could be, but I've seen that even if the person is not part of the group, doesn't matter. But the person needs still need to be believing in it,
Yes.
because if
Yeah.
not, she's blocking it. It's the nocebo or placebo effect. The more you believe in those things, the more it's happening. So that's where, for example, near-death experiences or reincarnation concept, there's a lot of in the East versus in the West. Because in our world, we're very materialistic and those things doesn't happen. And we just see less of them because we don't believe in it. So it's the same thing. But the interesting is the most of the time, the healer will heal and not necessarily the healy.
Yeah.
So because he was so in love about being one with the other, that when you're being one, everything is possible and then healing becomes. The only things about diseases about separation. When separation happened, there's disease happening. And they're like,
Hmm.
oh, something's happening. Just feedback. That's it. So if I go to reincarnation to explain the next segment is, so there's a lot of different studies that explain reincarnation. There's three main concepts. There's the near-death experiences. There's a way to explain this, and there's tons of studies that showing near-death experiences, people dying and coming back, and they all explain very similar things that it's impossible based on any science to say it doesn't work. Um, like somebody die, for example, and they can explain everything happening in the ER room,
Hmm. Hmm.
ER, yeah, no, OR room, operation room, like which kind of scalpel. They all have specific names, which have me and you have no idea what it is if we're not operator doctor that do operations, and the person can like exactly what happened, but the person is dead on the table, but remember everything. So how is this possible? If we're all matter, all of this is impossible because your consciousness, your memory is still just matter, just in the brain. But then if everything is consciousness, then all of this become possible. For example, they done a study with rats trying to find which part of the brain got the memory. So they did a maze. So the rat learned the maze, and then because it knows the maze, then we remove different part of the brain. So they did different rats to remove all the brain parts on different rats. Because if we remove all the brain parts from one rat, he won't move anymore. So we just remove part of the brain from A and B and C, and the total of the all the part of the brain are removed and still being able to do it. So they're like, "Where's the memory? If memory is not in the brain, where's the memory then?" So we say
Mm-hmm.
the mind in English. It's simpler. We say the mind and the brain are two different things,
Hmm.
but the mind is where consciousness holds. And even like there's a book called "The Body Keeps the Score," which is a he was it the doctor or something like this. He was a physician in some ways, and like the body keeps the memories of those things in some ways, and the body we can say it's in some ways it's the mind, it's consciousness. So it's very interesting when we think of this. So if we another way to explain reincarnation is the near death bed vision. So people that coming close to dying, tons of research again on this, very similar experiences, and then you're like, okay, I might not believe in it. And then there's the third one, which is quite a fascinating one, is like data specifically in reincarnation. They would take usually kids between the age of 2 and 6,
Hmm.
because at that point your rational mind, your beta brains are not fully developed, so you're still able to get information. And they would, for example, a kid could remember, I've put money somewhere in a house in my past life, and then they go and find the money specifically in that place. How is this possible? The person never been to that city, that town there. They remember everybody from the what's the house looks like, all the uncles and this and that. And some people got shot in World War II and they found birthmarks and they know what. So many different studies that you're like, how is this possible?
Our Newtonian minds will come up with a reason.
Yeah, but
They
usually
will.
people in my
It's
course
very,
when we
very,
talk
yeah, yeah.
about this, they're like, I don't know. So if this not the answer, nobody can answer what it is. So the only kind of explainable reason is like reincarnation. But why would quantum physics explain so many different things now from most all spiritual tradition, but not reincarnation?
Mhm, mhm,
So why
sure.
would this one not be true? And now there's tons of study that talks about that anyway. So you're like, okay. So if reincarnation is a thing, and they all say similar things as well, we would choose our parents. So if we take this, we don't have a proof on that. But if we say we create our own reality, everything is created ourselves, it's 100% us creating it. So if you chose your parents, you choose what? You choose your DNA. So your DNA is what? Probability of getting disease X, Y, Z, because we know that the gene does not express the disease, it's the environments, which is epigenetics. So based on your environment, your thinking, your habits, your whatever it is, the disease will be expressing itself based on this. So then you start living your life in a certain way, then disease come up. So you've put in place before coming back to life all the red lights, all the warnings based on your lifestyle that you're putting, and everything is you creating it. So everything is you're the one creating this. And it's a probability of getting this and this and this and this and this and this disease. And every moment, if you change your environment, you're changing your epigenetics and you're changing your disease. So it's quite fascinating when you put those things. We don't have a proof of we're choosing our parents, but if we spirituality
It's
says
a
this,
theory, yeah.
it's a theory, yeah,
Yeah.
that spiritual tradition all agree on the similar things there. And then we explain most everything in spirituality as of now with quantum physics. So why would this one not be a true thing? We can argue about it, but if we say we create everything, then this makes sense too. It's a possibility. It's just what I believe in that sense, but it goes with you're creating 100% of your reality, and you're just putting everything out there to tell you how you want to grow. Are you ready? Are you not ready? Do you want to grow through this? Do you want to suffer? Do you want to grow? So I feel that when you put all those pieces together, it like become like, wow, makes so much sense. Life is amazing.
It is amazing.
It's amazing.
So I've got a question for you.
Yes.
I suppose it depends upon what people believe.
Yeah.
In the Christian tradition,
Yeah.
there is a belief that Jesus resurrected from
Mhm.
the dead.
Yeah.
There is a story that Lazarus was brought back from the dead. These could be just stories,
Mhm.
but they could also be explained with quantum physics, do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back from the dead. So we're not our physical body, but we think we are. So we take fabulous. I love this study too. So we take a silicone arm. Okay. So we place, for example, your arm here and the silicone arm there, and we put the little wall in between. And the arm that we see is the silicone arm. Okay. And then we start to just little massage both arms, and then we start associating that the silicone arm is our arm. And then we take a needle, we put it in your real arm, you don't react. And we put it in the silicone arm and you react.
Oh my gosh.
Then you can burn your arm and you don't feel a thing, and you burn the fake arm and you react. So are we our physical body, or we create that we are our physical body?
Uh-huh.
So what's resurrection? Our body, physical body, is nothing in reality. So I'm sure you've seen Tony Robbins, people walking on the ashes, like super hot stones, burn. Most people doesn't get burned. Why? They just believe it's not cold, not hot, or I don't know how exactly what he does,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's the same concept. So are we our physical body, or we're limiting ourselves with the physical body? So they were saying that the ascendant masters, this is, it's not a scientific proof, but they were saying ascendant master can keep their body for hundreds of years. And I'm doing my PhD in India, and I met so many people over there, and they're saying, me, I know personally that somebody's like 250 years ago, years old. And you're like, how is this possible? If science says the human body can live around 120 if everything is perfect, and now the biohacking world is so big, so why do we attach ourselves so much that it has to be perfect, has to be healthy, we need to live longer? But they don't work on spiritual evolution,
Yeah,
consciousness.
the belief. Yeah. I mean, if we believe that we're going to die at 89 because everybody in our family died in their 80s,
Yeah,
we're going to create that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So, which brings my next question, because I have wondered about, I think it might be called the nocebo effect. I'm not
Mhm,
sure.
yeah.
But when people believe that they're sick, when there may be no reason to be sick,
Mhm,
that they can fall down and actually
yeah,
die.
yeah,
You know, if they're like a person's given poison, but it's not really poison,
yeah,
but they think it's poison, that within minutes they can actually lay their whole body down
yeah,
and
yeah,
die.
yeah. And for me, sadly, so many doctors would say to your patient, you still have 3 months to die,
Yeah, yeah.
to live. Sorry,
Well, it's
and
kind of the same.
yeah, and it should be illegal to say something like this. We're removing everything hope is,
Right,
and hope is the
we're not
placebo.
in the realm of
Yeah,
possibilities at
yeah,
all. You've
yeah,
defined it.
yeah.
Newtonian, you've defined it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, for example, my dad, as a medical doctor, he had a patient that he was following, and he know that she had a little mass or something. There's a spot that should not be there, but it never changed. So he was like, "Who cares?" And then my dad was in vacation, and the person see another doctor, and the person said, "Oh my God, we need to do something like this. You still have like a few days left, or a few months left, or whatever it is." And then the person died. And my dad was like, he didn't understand. Everything was fine with the patient, and so he ordered the file, and the mass was the exact same thing. It never changed.
Mm.
So you're like, is the doctor with the nocebo effect kill the patient in some ways? Like we know this nocebo effect is there. Placebo effect is the same thing. It's just one positive, the other one is killing. That's the only difference. So if we can start to understanding everything is possible, we're playing with the placebo effect at the same time. There's a lot of drugs that are on the market. Their placebo effect is stronger than the pill by itself, still on the
Hmm.
market, because people will believe it in
They
some
believe in the
ways.
medicine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And before, specifically, a lot it changed, but the doctor was kind of God. If the doctor was saying something, that's what it was. Now it's
Yeah.
changed a lot, but it was like this before. So if you can surround yourself by people that believe that everything is possible, they're like gonna push you to grow and change, and that's why so people have cancer, for example, they're like, okay, doctor saying I've got 3 months to live, so let's party, take my money, divorce, quit my job, change country, and just travel. And then 6 years later, they're like, still alive. Yeah, they changed everything from their environment,
Yeah.
and then the environment is creating you. You're creating your environment. So if you change everything, then it's great. So that's why, for example, I'm not a big fan of retreats by itself, because we change your environment. You're like, oh, the retreat was amazing. I've transformed. Then you go to the same life with the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
pattern, the same reality, and you're like, I need to go back to the retreat.
Yeah. I need to get another fix.
You get addicted to retreats. So retreats are great, but you need to mix them with other things that we're going to challenge you in your everyday life. That's why my program is 6 months, because it's in your life that we need you to transform.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the thing. Retreats, it's easy. It's not very uncomfortable. We're going somewhere else. It's easy.
Kumbaya. Everybody
Yeah,
loves each
that's the
other.
thing. So whatever the retreat is, it's great, but you're outside of
I
your
know.
reality.
I lead a retreat, and sometimes I wonder how would a day 4 and 5 have gone. But I also keep connected.
Yeah.
I ask them to stay connected with me through the
Hmm.
year.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to, we meet regularly
Yeah.
and
And
kind of
that's
ground.
so important. That's
Yes,
so
right,
important.
right.
Yeah. And a lot of time, a lot of people just do retreats, and there's
Yeah,
no follow up, no
it's a
feedback,
feeling
no
good thing.
connection. It's a
Yeah,
feeling good thing.
yeah. So I've got to ask you this. It may be controversial, and if
Yeah.
it's too controversial, I can edit it. But in the COVID years, I think that we were so bombarded with fear, 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 cases, cases, cases. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. We're all going to die.
Yeah.
And I feel like part of that was the nocebo effect. And I'm not trying to blame anyone
Mhm,
at
mhm.
all.
Yeah.
But if you believe that,
Yeah.
if you believe these authority figures that something is out there, it's going to harm me, it's going to harm all of us, then isn't it likely that we would we would have some casualties because of that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Nocebo is exactly what you said. And at the same time, the biggest stressor for human being is being alone.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
most all countries, almost all countries, people were in quarantine, separate in isolation. It's the and what they do in prison. When the person is not
Yes.
following the things, they put it in the black hole. I don't know in
Yeah.
English how they call
Solitary
it.
confinement.
Solitary
Yeah.
confinement.
Yeah.
It's where they're stressed the most.
Yeah.
And that's why, for example, there's the black retreats where you do a retreat in total darkness. You're fully alone. Nobody's telling you what to do. They give you a workshop a little bit at the beginning. And a lot of people do hallucination. It's like crazy for a lot of people because you're feeling back to just being yourself. And they're like, you're dealing with yourself. It's seeing yourself in the mirror. So those things. So if we're saying you might gonna die, oh shit, I might gonna die.
Yeah.
So
And
if
then
I
your thoughts
believe
go
this,
there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we're programming ourselves. We're creating our reality all the time.
Yeah, where we could be creating ideas around resurrection,
Yeah.
and I don't know what your spiritual or religious inclination, if anything, is, but I think that the masters were telling us about this. They're trying to share this, whether we had the actual science, quantum physics at the time,
Mm-hmm.
they knew this is how reality
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And so like a person like Jesus was trying to, I think, trying to share people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the kingdom is yours,
Yeah.
you have this, and
Exactly.
you can do more than I can do.
Yeah.
And let me show you what I can do, and then follow me.
Mm-hmm.
And we missed that message. We
Yeah.
stuck in Newtonian that wasn't even discovered yet.
Yeah. But so I don't want to bash on religion, but
No.
if you look at religion, they live in a dualistic perspective
Yes.
versus spirituality. And we would say Jesus was a spiritual person. Um, and then it was kind of change by
A
human
belief
in some
system
ways,
was
the belief
created
system.
around him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's better to believe in religion than believing material things. Even science shows it. People that believe either in religion or spirituality, happiness is improved, health is improved versus people believing in just matter stuff. So if you believe something bigger than yourself, you're already on the right path. Uh, but I would say sometimes people like if there's one truth in life, what it is. And for me, it's like everything is one. So every time you experience like in duality, it's go to hell, go to heaven. Like why?
Mhm.
Like there's no negative and positive. This is again a duality perspective. If we look, we know emotion is just different vibration. There's no good or bad. It's just fear, it's a lower vibration, and love is a high vibration. It's not the opposite, but how this is how we bring things. Everything is separate. Every time we're separate, we suffer. So we need to think, how do we live? So I go to a spiritual retreat and people were like polluting so much. And I was like, that's interesting. People are not aware of how they live. They're saying we're all one. But if you're polluting nature, you're polluting yourself. There's no difference. So we need to be in awareness of who we are as being one. How do we live in everyday life? So the more you consume, the more you're going to pollute anyway, most of the time. So do you really need this or do you really need that? So how much the things that we need for, so for example, you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur in some ways. So we're like, okay, so we need to do this to be successful. By who? By the mass, which is are usually the one that are like this, or you go the people that are challenging things and going against things. And so it's not about what you do, it's about who you are.
Mhm.
So the observer again, you create your reality. So you can do, which is very Newtonian perspective, or you can be a lot more and then attract so many different things because you're vibrating a different vibration. It's kind of power manifestation in some ways. So quantum physics explained the whole system of manifestation. And most of the time they're come short when people teach manifestation because they're still teaching manifestation in 3D realm where everything is matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we have the science. Yeah, you have the science where everything is matter, not where everything is energy. So, for example, The Secret was amazing, but they were falling so much short. But this, like 25 years ago, something like this, it was amazing. But we're so far ahead now with quantum physics explanation of those concepts. It's again, everything is energy, everything is one. So the more you tap in that reality, the more everything become possible.
So, so So we're mired in the Newtonian paradigm
Yeah,
still,
yeah,
even though we know all of this
hmm,
quantum physics.
yeah,
And we've already talked about what kind of life a quantum physics spirituality is. How do we, how does somebody get from one to the other? Because I know we talked about education in the
hmm,
last hour,
yeah, yeah,
and we've been educated in a Newtonian system on Newtonian concepts. We
yeah,
have Newtonian beliefs. It's all a belief, and it's all in our mind about what we think is possible.
yeah.
And that's not the truth. So there's another reality over here, but we've been so educated in this other
Hmm,
one. It's like learning another language at middle age or something.
yeah,
How do we help people bridge that gap and move from the old science to the new,
mhm,
and from like religion to spirituality, that whole shift we need to make?
yeah. So the easiest way usually people will learn is through experience. So it's kind of, I would say, I'll kick you in the uncertain world where everything
Uh-huh.
is uncertain. So you're gonna live it, but you won't have a chance. So that's the fastest and easy way. But it's people.
Just
There's
be
a
thrown out of the
much,
nest.
yeah. That's how bird learns. They're gonna
Exactly.
be
They'll
pushed
never
out of the
fly.
nest. So that's kind of the easiest way, but it's not the simplest way. Um, that's what I do in my program, but I don't do it from the get go because people are like still want their comfort zone, still don't want to be challenged too much, and so on. So what I do in my program, that's what we've been speaking about. Like I will bring different studies to challenge your belief. Like for example, when I was saying the two arms, you're like, that's kind of you're like kind of mind bugging. Is like, yeah, it does not make sense. So that's why kind of the electroshock is challenging your
Yeah.
belief in a certain way that you need to stop and think. So a lot of times, for example, at the beginning, I was telling the studies with the two arms, and when I was not pausing and challenging and helping them to think, they're like, "Oh, that's great." But then, if this thing's like the question I said, look, if the false harm you believe it's your harm, and your real harm is not your real harm, is kind of not your real harm now. Are you your physical body? And now by asking that question, you're like, "Oh, okay, I didn't think of that," because we didn't learn to question things.
Uh-huh.
And questioning things, it's in some ways it's such an important thing, because if you look the best debater in the world, their perception of life is amazing, because when you go to a debate, they won't tell you up front you're going to be on this side or this side. It's at the debate competition they're going to tell you you're on that side and you're on that side. So you need to understand the both world. You need to understand the whole picture and not just what you believe. So we stop learning asking question. At school, don't ask question. The teacher knows, and you're just a student. So kind of in some way shut
Just
up and
absorb the
listen,
information. Yes.
and then remember everything for the exam, and the next day forget everything.
Exactly.
So we don't bring meaning to it. So if we ask questions, we're gonna start to bring more meaning. For example, if we talk about my book, and so this is something I say: do a study book club, read a chapter, discuss about it, because it's such deep information. But it's gonna be, oh, the book was amazing. I love the content. Okay, what did it change in you? So, for example, when you buy the book, there's a companion guide in it. And for each chapter, there's like 5 questions each for each chapter to make you think about it. Even each chapter inside of there were a lot of questions. So we bring a concept, we question you, we make you think. But then we've put it even more, because it's when you're going to reflect, you're going to, oh, I didn't see this. And then what something you said is like, it's something you realize something, you cannot just go back to who you are. That's the
Yeah.
quantum leap. You've changed from one orbit to the other orbits of the atoms, and you're like, no, I'm now there now. Like when I was saying the story with my wife, I told her I know that you don't know anything in nutrition because I've been there. I know I've hired nutritionists. I've been in that field. So I know. I cannot say, no, it's not true. It is what it is. So it's the same thing. So, for example, if you see something is blue, you know it's blue. The same thing. But I can play with your perception. I'm going to challenge a lot of people with perception. Our eyes are creating a reality in some ways. There's a blind spot. We don't see it, but there's a blind spot. So where's your nerve is, we can play with an exercise, and then like there's two dots, for example, on a sheet, and the dot disappeared. You're like, how is it gone? So your eyes already create reality based on the environment external and create it. So I'm challenging a lot of belief based on neuroscience perspective and quantum physics. So you can be, now we're going back to the big philosopher like Plato, and like those people were saying, who's the I in I am? We
Mm-hmm.
lost all of those things, but they
Mm-hmm.
were there. They brought us so many wisdom and knowledge. They were asking question. That's the only thing that they were doing, trying to ask question and then talk about it and debate about
It's a
it. And
whole different education
exactly.
process.
And when I
Yeah.
was a kid, I was going to my philosophy school at school, and I was like, that's meaningless. That's so boring. And then I came back at school at 27, and I was the kid that was, I was not a more a kid, but I was with the kid that were 17 and was 27. And I was having so much fun in those courses. And the other was like, who's that guy? He loved the class. Everybody hated the class. But I was seeing life very differently at that time. Before
Uh-huh.
me, life was meaningless. But when I brought meaning to it, then I was like, oh, we're trying to figure out more meaning with those questions.
Yeah, so we certainly don't want to get your book and consume it.
No,
And,
no,
we talked about that in the last hour. This consumption is
yeah,
one of the addictions that we have. Um, it's one of the ways to bridge from our Newtonian immersion to the quantum is to find meaning, to ask questions, to delve in it, to not move on, to not consume it and move on,
yeah,
and to allow ourselves to like assimilate it, but in a questioning way. Is that
yeah,
right? Am I getting
yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And if we bring the uncertainty, if you want to be better in sports, do you play in comfort zones, or are you going to push yourself?
Yeah.
You might fail, and that's the uncertainty. It's moving to something that you're not good enough. So if you want to be better, play with people that are better. You'll be challenged. You don't
Yeah.
want to play with the people that are worse than you, then it's easy. It's fun, I win all the time and it's comfortable, but that's not what life's about. If it's life is about growth, it's the same thing we do in sports. Why don't we do this in our life?
In every aspect of our life.
Yeah,
So we're coming up on our hour,
yeah,
and I want to give you the last words, but before that,
yeah,
I have to ask you, how are you going to raise your daughter? You've got a little daughter,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and obviously she's going to be raised in a more unconventional way. I'm really curious.
Yeah. So, for example, all the books that we have are like linked to quantum physics or like emotions and like stories of Buddhas and those kind of things. So I'm ready bringing her how to see the world very differently.
So, like quantum physics for toddlers?
Yeah, yeah. We have all like the books that exist on that domain, for example. Even she doesn't understand anything, she understands because kids understand way more than we believe. So, for example, when she was not even one, she was squatting and was like, okay, let's first the thing. So there's a plant here. We're going to just give love to the plant. She was just squatting and just taking the plant in between her hands and starting to give love. So love is something that we can all give. It's energy. And she might see it already. So the more I train her, and then I pass from love to healing. So now we were so funny. We were like a month ago, we were in a restaurant with friends, and one of the kids hurt himself. And she came to see him and she started to heal the leg of the little girl. And everybody was like, what is she doing? Because there was a lot of kids. And then all the kids started to, I want to do this. I want to do this. They feel a lot of things. Their brain is very interesting. And so I'll do a training soon while I work with somebody that does that. So she trains people to see books, to read books blindfolded.
Blindfolded. Yeah.
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 So how does it work? Fully right brain, adult, almost impossible. We would know what's written, but we won't see it. Kids would see it. It's how the brain is developed. So the school system screw adults up because of this. So I'm playing with her with so many different things, and the more she's gonna grow, the more I'll play with different games like this to develop her psychic abilities, to seeing things without knowing and blindfold things. So me myself, I'm playing with a lot of those things too, to test things and experience different things. So I'm just giving off like the whole buffet of like energy stuff and spiritual stuff and so on. And then she will be technically unschooled, schooling at home and those kind of things. Experience is everything. So if you want to learn maths, learn it in a way that it's going to be functional. Like math is
Yeah.
in our, we still need to learn maths. If you know finance and those kind of things, it's great. But learning 2 + 2 = 4, what's the goal of this? There's no goal of it. So if we can bring meaning to things, it's still meaningless. 2 + 2 = 4. Yeah, who cares? Oh, if you pay $2 and it costs $4 and you only have $2, then you still have $2 needed. Oh, okay, I can understand now. So then we bring meanings to education because most education is meaningless.
Oh,
So
I
it's
love
going
that.
to be a lot of those things, and challenging her in different ways. And where we are in Mexico, also, I've got all the alternative school in the world. They're all like in 30 minutes drive. So I might do this. We're going to see how it goes and how she wants to evolve too. But the unschooling method is mostly led by children and surrounded by adults. So the child decide what they do, and the adult guide them and in the process. Because, like when we were saying reincarnation, kids between the age of 2 and 6, they know so much. And so if we can follow their process, then we can process in this way. And this brings, in some ways, reincarnation. They're coming back with a past that we don't know. And if we bring them to the regular school system, they're going to be just focused on those things, but their abilities are this thing and this things. So they're never going to develop their abilities. If you talk about Mozart, how does the hell can he write those things at such a young age? People are like 60 and cannot write what he did. It has to come from a past life with different ability. But if he were never put in contact with music instrument or a piano, will never develop those things. So the more you let the child lead his teaching, the more he's gonna go in things that he can develop easily from past life. So
Yeah,
that's
I've always personally felt like it could be past life, but could it not also be that some children just have access to this collective consciousness and they're able to draw,
yeah,
you know, symphonies or
we can
something
say
from
that.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to draw those, it's because usually you have the ability to
Yes.
understand this.
Yeah.
So the understanding comes from a past life, but the symphony exists everywhere. You know, we were saying all the information is there in the quantum field. And the interesting thing is, like most of the time when there's new innovation, there's like 2, 3, 4 person that has the same
At the
ideas at
same
the same
time.
time.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
The information is out there,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they got it, and then it was like, who's the faster to put it to market?
Right.
That's
That's what
and then
happened
we
with
know that
calculus.
that's
Newton
the
and
thing.
Leibniz. Yeah. Um, Yeah, I learned in my calculus class that Leibniz was snowed in and he didn't get his calculus out there as fast as Newton did. I don't know if that's true or not. Okay, so Philippe, I'm going to give you the last word. This has
Yeah,
been so fascinating and it's a huge topic, and
yeah.
I want people to be able to access you. I'll have all of your links and all of everything on the show notes. But what would you last want us to leave with?
So I would say, so we go back to what we were saying at the end, like play bold, which is mean go just in the unknown, just do things that doesn't make sense, and just be aware of what's happening and question things. So if you have two things in life, like you can read my books, you can do my programs, you can accelerate everything. But if you want to do it by your own self, this is how you would do it. Just take more time. But this is, for me, these are the two things that if you do this, your life would improve every day. instead of like just being autopilot, like just consuming information, staying in a comfort zone. Just go to the unknown, just go to the uncertainty realm and question things. And child are like this. I see my
Yes.
little 2 years, it's 100% this.
Yes.
And then when we become adults, we're like, no, we want to have this. Then
Want
we
to be
become
certain.
rigid. Then we become robotic, and they're like, I
I
don't
want to be
have the life I want.
protected. Yeah. I want a safe
So,
life.
if there's one word, be childlike in a adult body. So we have wisdom that the child does not remember. So we're really learning this. But if you can play, child, whatever happened, it doesn't matter. Who cares? They just continue. They cry for a minute and then go back to the play. It's
Yeah,
finished.
it reminds
It's
me
it's
of
fascinating.
another scripture where Jesus said, To enter the kingdom, you must become as a little child."
Mhm.
The kingdom is the quantum field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And it's not like you have to become a child, but you have to have that childlike wonder and that
yeah,
questioning mind
yeah,
and the open mind and the
yeah,
open heart to dive right into the unknown.
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
We can
So
go through each scripture and explain this and explain
we
that.
can.
We could, I'm sure,
Yeah.
because they're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Now we just have the science that explain that makes more sense, but that's the only thing. So
Yeah.
that's fabulous, fascinating.
There's no conflict. It's all there.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Well, Philippe, this was so interesting, so fun. I can't wait to get these episodes out. I really, really appreciate your sharing. And I'm going to get your book. I lead a book study, so maybe we'll do that one next.
I'll join one day to answer
Yeah.
question in your book study.
Yeah, that would be great. It might be a year's study or a life of study. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Philippe. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I know that we were blessed by all of this conversation. And I now close the spiritual forum.